Good afternoon and welcome to this event on the UK-Algeria energy transition and countdown to COP26. My name is Katie and I'm an associate here at DMA, and we're really pleased that you've been able to join us digitally this afternoon. It's been about a year since the UK went into its first lockdown, and also a year ago we'd just come back from our trade mission, which coincidentally was to Algeria, but we're really glad that you've been able to join us and we're still able to host such an important event on the renewable energy space. It's an important moment for us too at DMA. We're just going into our second year, being completely oil-free and making a conscious move to include sustainability and promoting the green agenda in any part of our work. This is something that there's also been a wider political appetite for. There's been signals in markets from investment and, importantly, public investments and public opinion as well. As I'm sure we'll hear today, being sustainable isn't just a question of supporting future generations, but providing long-term clean opportunities for countries and other economies now. It's also a sensible business decision. The title of today's event on renewable energy transition and the countdown to COP26 was chosen very carefully. We want it to look not just at renewables and the many potential sources of renewables, but the wider landscape that this includes, and also how we transition into such a landscape. This is really important for an economy such as Algeria that's historically had its economic development based on hydrocarbons and other polluting industries. Transitions don't happen overnight, and what is important is how we facilitate and enable this with collaboration, innovative technologies and solution. We've seen over the last couple of years a real strategic shift in how the UK is thinking and actually being green and showing real leadership in this, especially in the run-up to COP26 at the end of the year, which is probably going to be one of the most important climate change conferences that we've seen to date, especially in the context of the pandemic as well, and thinking about how we can really build back better and cleaner and greener. And I know this is something that the Algerian government is also committed to, and there are great opportunities for collaboration in this space. And also it's a space where these two countries can really lead on and make an impact globally. It's important to know that Algeria has a huge potential and could actually be the world capital for solar energy, and with support of the likes of the UK Export Finance, there's a real chance to make this happen, and we hope that the discussions we have today will lend itself well to this. On the topic of opportunity and seizing this important moment, it's my pleasure to hand over to the Algerian ambassador to the UK. Ambassador, over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank DMA and particularly you, Mr. Adam Sandu, and your staff for organizing this webinar and for selecting this theme, which is important to Algeria and I believe also to the UK, as it is playing a major role in the awareness against global warming, in the development of clean and renewable energies, and as it is preparing to host the next climate change conference at the end of this year. I am confident that with the British leadership, this conference will be a great step forward in the humanity's quest to save our planet from disaster. I can assure you that Algeria will spare no effort to ensure its success. Algeria, like other countries, is in a period of energy transition in order to meet the needs of its growing population and the ever larger demands of its economy. For Algeria, succeeding its energy transition is a major priority and an essential condition to ensure its energy security. It is aware that it cannot and will not rely solely on the hydrocarbon reserves, no matter how important they are and how long they will last. In this regard, the government has adopted a number of policies to promote the development of industries using clean and efficient technologies and to encourage the rehabilitation of the existing production units and factories to bring them into compliance with international standards. These policies are very costly and are implemented at a time when Algeria, like other countries, is facing economic difficulties exacerbated by low prices of hydrocarbons and sanitary challenges imposed by COVID-19. Additionally, the government is rapidly developing the use of renewable energies, which is important to its strategy to reinforce the national economy. In this framework, it has created a ministry in charge of energy transition and renewable energies, headed by a respected and capable minister who used to be a university professor of a very high caliber. Algeria, with an annual sunshine of 3,000 hours, one of the most important durations in the world, has embarked on a large program to produce 15,000 megawatts, mainly of solar energy, by 2035. We believe that this objective can be met with the country's capacities and also with the assistance of countries such as UK, which has a great experience and expertise in renewable energies. I hope that British companies will seize the enormous opportunities in this field, as the two countries are linked by non-double taxation, and as Algeria has adopted many economic reforms that have greatly improved the business climate in the country. These reforms reduced the bureaucracy, provided more guarantees and protection to investors, and these reforms make no distinction or difference between foreign and local investors. These reforms, they also provide for more tax incentives, which will be measured on the basis of the added value of the projects and its capacity to create jobs. Finally, and at the international level, I would like to raise the case of the many countries which do not have the resources to develop their renewable energies and thus are the first victims of climate change, a phenomena which Prime Minister Boris Johnson called rightly a threat to the world security. In this regard, these countries, like Algeria, are seeking the support of the UK to convince the developed countries to provide them with adequate financing and technological support for their climate action, and that is in accordance with the Paris agreements. I would like to thank you for listening and also for your attention.
Ambassador, thank you for those excellent opening remarks. It's brilliant to hear that the energy transition is really a major priority for the government of Algeria, and the steps that have been taken to facilitate this, such as making the investment climate increasingly more attractive, establishing the Ministry of Energy Transition and Renewable Energy, who we'll of course hear from shortly, and also that key statistic of 15,000 megawatts of renewable energy by 2035. And I think that says it all, really, in terms of the scale of the opportunities that are available here and the opportunities for collaboration between the UK and Algeria, and our responsibility to act on this globally as well. So on this idea of links between the UK and Algeria, it's my pleasure to hand over to a long-term advocate of this relationship, to Lord Risby, who's the Prime Minister's trade envoy to Algeria, for the keynote address.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, as the Prime Minister's trade envoy to Algeria, I am truly delighted to support this event of such real importance and significance. It focuses on one of the most important challenges we face today, delivering the power needed to fuel clean growth as we make the necessary transition to a low-carbon global economy. Hydrocarbons have been the bedrock of our bilateral trade and investment relationship. The UK was Algeria's first customer for Algerian LNG, and Algeria has been an unfailingly reliable supplier to the UK for 55 years. Our oil and gas companies have a long history of cooperation, and UK companies are amongst the biggest investors in Algeria. Many of these companies are already transforming their global businesses in support of actually moving towards a low-carbon energy green economy. And also, as we look at British investments in Algeria, a number of British companies, for example, RNE Partners, Clark Energy, Capterio, are already there doing business with Algerian partners. They're looking to the future and are keen to foster new partnerships and technological exchanges. This is a time of huge change in global energy markets. We must seize this opportunity to invest in green technologies that are not only future-proof, but also often the most competitive option. Today, more than 45% of our electricity is now being generated by renewable energy. In the UK, we have world-leading expertise in regulation, policy formation, and governance, drivers in place to encourage deployment and cost reduction. This is what we want to share with our Algerian partners. This supportive environment has led to the development of a strong and growing domestic capability across a wide range of renewable energy technologies. We have, for example, the largest installed capacity of offshore wind anywhere in the world. Furthermore, London is regarded as the leader in green finance and a global centre of carbon trading. I am in no doubt that our companies possess the technology and knowledge to help. I am more certain than ever that UK businesses bring the highest standards, assurance and commitment to deliver sustainable solutions and long-term partnerships. The UK is committed to eradicating the contribution to climate change by 2050. In November last year, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson set out an ambitious 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution to support this. This plan, along with the UK's hosting of COP26 this year, is showing that British businesses, driving innovations are absolutely necessary, which we're doing for this change. They're amongst best placed in the world to deliver the much needed technology to drive clean growth forward. And dozens of the world's leaders will be at COP26, adding to the importance of this important moment. We will continue to provide support through UK Export Finance, the UK's export credit agency, which can be transformational in delivering projects and strengthening investment partnerships. I am delighted that UK colleagues will be telling you more about what is on offer for Algeria during the event today. UKEF helps UK companies to win orders, to fulfill important contracts. And we are indeed in the top 3 in supporting sustainable deals, more than France and Germany put together. And very importantly, we are now able to provide direct local dedicated backing for overseas buyers if they are able to buy British renewable goods and services. In November at COP26 in Glasgow, we must agree still more ambitious action on climate change, and our Prime Minister will be pressing for international agreement on CO2 emissions by 2060, showing our real commitment and leadership. It is not just climate concerns that precipitate this. Renewable energy is now often cheaper and more reliable than carbon-intensive alternatives. All of this is well understood by the sophisticated and determined approach signalled by Algeria. Algeria and the UK have shared interests. We want to produce and consume energy more efficiently in a stable, safe and sustainable environment, deploying renewables, continuing to deepen and strengthen our partnership. So I greatly look forward to hearing the contributions about Algeria's transition and renewable energy plans for the future today. I'm much looking forward to a very successful and productive webinar.
Thank you very much, Lord Risby, and we look forward to hearing from those British companies later today. As you brilliantly said, the UK is a leader in driving forward the green industrial revolution to build back better, support jobs and accelerate the path to net zero. And of course, the energy transition is a key part of this and was something that was mentioned in the 10-point plan. It's amazing to think of what the UK and Algeria can achieve together as we support and move towards those ambitious targets that will hopefully come out of COP26. And from the COP26 team, it's our real pleasure to introduce Janet Rogan, who is the Regional Ambassador for the Middle East, North Africa, Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Janet, over to you.
Your Excellencies, Lord Risby, Monsieur Merouane, distinguished guests. It is a great pleasure to join you for this important conference, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank colleagues in the British Embassy in Algiers and DMA for bringing together actors from across the whole renewable energy landscape. I recognise also the very experienced and distinguished representative of the Algerian Ministry of Energy Transition and Renewable Energy, Monsieur Merouane. COP26 will be a special COP, a checkpoint 5 years after COP21 and its 15-year agenda taking us to 2030. Let us remember that 2015 was also the year the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030 and its 17 SDGs was agreed. Tackling climate change is SDG 13, and SDG 13 is indivisibly linked to all the other 16 SDGs and the pledge to leave no one behind. And COP26 will take place against the background of the devastating global impact of COVID-19. The nexus between climate change and COVID-19 is one reason COP26 is so important. The technical data are showing that global greenhouse gas emissions are not falling fast enough, adaptation efforts are lagging behind, global finance targets were already falling behind before the impact of COVID-19, impacting not only climate action but also sustainable socio-economic development. The UK's aim is that COP26 will unite the world on a path to a zero carbon economy as we build back better from COVID-19 with a greener, more resilient and inclusive global economy. To do this, we need an agreement at COP26 that accelerates action to reduce emissions, strengthens adaptation and resilience to impacts, scales up support and finance, protects and restores nature, and empowers inclusive action. That is why it is important that all countries do submit updated NDCs ahead of the 5-year point, as envisaged in Article 4.9 of the Paris Agreement. The UK's own ambitious new NDC, announced by Prime Minister Boris Johnson in December 2020, pledges to reduce the UK's greenhouse gas emissions by at least 68% by 2030 compared to 1990 levels. This is the fastest rate of emissions reduction announced by a major economy to date. Mr Johnson also published a 10-point long-term plan for a green industrial revolution in the UK, covering a broad agenda including clean energy, transport, nature and innovative technologies. This approach is an example of a whole economy approach for both the near and the long term. Complementing mitigation efforts, countries should also draw up and submit adaptation communications in line with Article 7 of the Paris Agreement. This demonstrates the balance between mitigation and adaptation needs and can help countries to share experience and technical assistance, including through the Adaptation Action Coalition announced at the recent Climate Adaptation Summit. Transition towards renewable energy solutions is a significant opportunity for public policy and private investment to come together. Since 2010, the cost of solar power generation has fallen by 85%, and the cost of wind power generation has fallen by 49%. This represents an opportunity for both public and private sectors. In Algeria, the proportion of land suitable for solar and wind power is well above the global average, giving Algeria the potential to become a regional leader in solar power generation. Adaptation of this kind, matched with efforts to implement existing mitigation commitments, such as rigorous action to reduce gas flaring, could have a significant impact on Algeria's carbon footprint. Global trade in low-carbon goods and services has been accelerating and is expected to grow from £150 billion in 2015 to up to £5 trillion in 2050. Transition to new zero is creating the greatest commercial opportunity of our age. Achieving net zero requires a whole economy transition. To deliver the Paris Agreement and achieve global net zero, the whole system needs to have transitioned by 2050 at the latest. Private sector participation is vital to achieve this level of ambition. More collaboration is needed between governments, state-owned enterprises, private sector and civil society to accelerate progress towards the Paris Agreement goals. The Climate Ambition Alliance and its Race to Zero campaign is the largest ever coalition of leaders committed to reaching net zero by 2050. It brings together 120 countries, 1,000 businesses, 36 investors, nearly 500 cities and regions, and more than 500 universities. Its members represent over 70% of global GDP and covers nearly a quarter of CO2 emissions. The Race to Zero campaign urges businesses, investors, cities and regions around the world to commit to reaching net zero by 2050 at the latest. I leave you with a strong invitation to all businesses, cities, regions and investors to consider joining the Race to Zero. Thank you, and I wish you a fruitful discussion today.
Thank you, Janet. And wow, I mean, the fact that global trade in low carbon goods and services could be £5 trillion by 2050 says it all, really, and why it's so important that the UK and Algeria can be early movers in this shift, and why COP26 is such an important moment in bridging together economies and linking SDGs and having a platform for governments and business to be able to discuss this and the path to having a resilient and low carbon inclusive economy. Thank you also for your invitation to be part of the race to net zero, and I really hope that the audience will think about how their skills and businesses and policies can be part of this agenda as we move forward. And this actually provides a really great transition into our next keynote speaker, who is Shaban Marouin, who is a chef de cabinet from the Ministry of Energy Transition and Renewable Energy from the government Algeria, to tell us more about the strategic objectives and long-term plan. Thank you.
Mr. Prime Minister Trade, Envoy to Algeria, my Lord Wisby, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your kind invitation to this exceptional event and for giving me an excellent forum, especially in a context marked by the COVID-19 pandemic, to raise my country's voice on issues as important as those related to energy transition and climate neutrality. It is very pleasing to me to discuss with you the role of the energy transition in the next decade. First of all, to overcome the economic consequences of COVID-19 and for what it offers as opportunities for changes towards a more eco-responsible and circular future. In this regard, I would like to take this opportunity to share with you our country's vision for energy transition in the short and long term, which is based on a triptych: a new energy model, a major development of renewable energies, and the promotion of energy sobriety and efficiency. Given the rapid and structural changes in the world energy scene, Algeria must take up major challenges for the next decade, mainly diversifying energy sources in order to gradually free itself from its dependence on hydrocarbons and guarantee its energy security for the future generations. In this regard, Algeria has resolutely turned towards the development of an energy strategy allowing it to be a dynamic energy player by promoting the use of renewable energy sources for, in the one hand, ensure a real energy transition, and in the other hand, the valuation of its fossil resources. Our strategy consists, first of all, of 1. Quickly change the energy model based primarily on hydrocarbons and move resolutely towards a model promoting an optimal energy mix, which will take into account global trends in sustainable development, but also the specificity and constraint of Algeria. 2. Engage in a large-scale development plan for the production of electricity from renewable sources. The first plan consists of the achievement of 15,000 megawatts, mainly solar and wind power, by 2035, taking into account the large existing potential and the absorption capacities of the national electricity transmission and distribution grid. The promotion of and development of renewable energies and cogeneration for self-consumption in various sectors: agriculture, industry, tertiary, and residential. But also the identification and development of other forms of energy available: biomass, geothermal energy, wood, and others, and the production of green hydrogen as an energy vector of the future by taking advantage of the future electricity capacities from renewable energies and Algeria's existing gas infrastructure. 3. The other important lever of the energy transition is energy sobriety and efficiency. The corresponding plan is initially focused on projects having significant impact on energy demand. These are mainly the sector of transport, by converting millions of vehicles to LPG fuel, and the gradual development of electric mobility. Buildings, through the introduction of regulatory energy efficiency measures in the design and renovation of buildings, improving the energy performance of residential lighting, public lighting, and household appliances, promoting heater, solar, water, and also in industry by supporting and encouraging manufacturers to improve the energy efficiency of industrial units and increase the number of energy audits. In conclusion, Algeria wishes to develop an exceptional partnership with United Kingdom, which would affect the various axes of its energy transition strategy. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and what a brilliant ending to our keynote session to be able to hear from the new ministry about their vision and what the new energy model is going to look like, and how the many different sources of renewables can be part of this diversification that is so important to Algeria, and also the role that the UK can play in supporting greater energy efficiency and making Algeria a real dynamic player in the energy industry. It's now my pleasure to hand over to Jeremy Oppenheim, who's the founder and senior partner of Systemic, which is a system change company that partners with business, finance, policymakers and civil society to make economic systems truly sustainable. He's the lead author of Better Growth, Better Climate report of the New Climate Economy Project, and previously spent over 20 years at McKinsey developing and leading its sustainability and resource productivity practice. We're really looking forward to your take on the global energy transition. Jeremy, over to you.
Thank you for that extremely kind introduction, and thank you especially to the organisers, Lord Risby, the Minister of Energy Transition, and to the stellar lineup of distinguished guests for taking the time to listen to me today. The conference aligns very well with our work. Our work at Systemic is on supporting transitions in the energy system and in nurturing real-world market-based solutions. And our work with the Energy Transitions Commission is focused specifically on building a multi-sectoral approach to the transition. The ETC works with many of the groups that are represented here today, from the energy companies, their consumers, governments, regulators, and of course the investment community. I'd like to cover three things with you today. My stock take on where the world is on the energy transition, the world's expectations for COP26, and finally some reflections on Algeria. First, let me start with the global stock take on the energy transition. The climate science is of course clear. Greenhouse gas emissions are driving climate change. We are already seeing the impact with rising sea levels, increasing forest fires, hotter summers, and more extreme weather events. In Paris in 2015, governments agreed to keep global warming well below 2 degrees Celsius and to make efforts to keep it below 1.5 degrees. And to do that, we need to get CO2 equivalent emissions to zero by mid-century, and ideally for them to halve by 2030. The UK was the first country to set net zero by 2050 in law. Since then, many countries and governments have made similar commitments. And Biden has brought the US back into the Paris Agreement. We now have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to scale zero-carbon industries in the 2020s, creating prosperous growth, millions of new jobs, and much more resilient economies. Global momentum is accelerating as renewable costs continue to plummet. And of course, carbon prices are rising, and I think across many, many countries, public opinion is shifting in favour of stronger climate action. Power generation has also reached a tipping point where low carbon solutions can outcompete legacy high carbon businesses. And that's not just, if you will, new against new. It's in some geographies, it's new renewable energy against legacy, if you will, operating costs of high carbon assets. And we are beginning to see tipping points, not just in the power sector, but in other sectors as well. Financial markets can clearly read the writing on the wall. And the smart money, as we see it, is already moving into clean technologies and solutions. And it's moving at scale. Now, turning to COP26, COP26 is, of course, a moment to raise ambitions, to reconfirm, recommit, and accelerate the pace of change. It will be very important that governments around the world redouble their efforts to drive highly ambitious contributions to the climate agenda. And of course, that requires not just high-level targets, but specific plans and specific policies and specific investments. And those plans and policies will not only drive public investment, but have the potential to drive private investment as well. And we are seeing very substantial shifts in the behavior of companies in sectors that you might not have anticipated, from aviation through to shipping, through to, of course, some of the heavier industries, cement and steel. The pace across the board is beginning to pick up, and it will affect, of course, the energy suppliers in profound and permanent ways. And let me turn finally to some reflections on Algeria. Algeria, of course, has been very much a leader in energy in the region for decades, and Algeria has an excellent chance to participate in the energy transition, starting with its high-quality energy resources today, repurposing expertise and know-how to create, in turn, a set of new energy assets for the future. And there is some urgency. The energy transition is likely to mean lower demand for oil and for gas, and over time, lower prices. That's the direction of travel, even if from time to time we will see upticks in those energy prices. Experts suggest that long-term prices for oil are probably in the $30 to $50 per barrel range. And this will be a big challenge for Algeria because, as the IMF says, governments balance their budgets at much, much closer to $100 per barrel. I'm far from an expert in Algeria, but think that there are three things that Algeria might want to consider. First, it's important to make the most of your existing asset base. To satisfy domestic demand growth and maximize exports, Algeria will need to work on efficiency and selective investments in hydrocarbons. Algeria needs to minimize waste, and gas flaring reduction springs to mind as a key opportunity for the country. This is especially important since the EU is proposing to implement carbon border tariffs from 2023. And unless countries can certify that their supply chain emissions are low, then they may find market access difficult, or they may find themselves exposed to lower pricing. I know that my colleague Mark Davis from Capteria will be talking to you more about this topic later. Algeria also needs to make the right hydrocarbon investments, focusing on low-cost assets with a bias for gas, to avoid the risk of creating stranded assets. After all, gas can complement renewables, providing support to their intermittencies, and gas is abundant and affordable. There also might be a role for carbon sequestration and storage, where Algeria has already led the world with the CO2 injection project in the Salah field. Second, it's important for Algeria to get on with building an energy system fit for the future. Algeria is ideally placed to make a huge contribution. Algeria has been in solar since the 1960s. In fact, as you all know, Algeria was one of the first countries to develop hybrid power plants, such as that at Hassi Armel. But as the largest country in Africa, with 2,000 to 3,000 hours of sunshine per year and lots of unused desert, Algeria could be a world leader and a world capital for the solar industry. You have the potential to provide power to Europe and to the world, either directly through high voltage cables or indirectly using a carrier fuel such as green hydrogen or green ammonia. There are lots and lots of options. And finally, the time for action, of course, is now. This conference is timely. We need this honest dialogue and a realistic debate with the public, with government officials, company staff and the people about the new path. The key is to get going on this new path and to do so now. There is a limited window of opportunity for fossil fuels in a market that will soon be peaking and will then decline. Capital investment is moving quickly into new sectors, the clean energy sectors, and Algeria has every opportunity to participate as one of the early movers. There is literally all to play for, and we are at Systemic rooting for your success. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jeremy, and we couldn't agree more that this is an excellent opportunity for Algeria and the UK to participate in this new future as we move towards COP26 and actually importantly move beyond COP26. I'm sure your suggestions about investing in low-cost, low-carbon assets have been well received, and also how gas can be used to complement renewables, which is what the transition is all about, really. And on the topic of what the transition is about and what this means for Algeria and how, as you say, we can get going on this path now, it's my pleasure to hand over to Adil Kurt-Eli, who is the founder and CEO of Aldersmead and was previously Head of Emerging Markets at HSBC, for our first session. Adil.
Thank you, Katie. My name is Adil Kurt-Eli, and I'm pleased to be hosting this first session on the transition to renewable energy in Algeria on the road to COP26. I'm joined in this session by an esteemed panel of guests. Huidad Hamro is the project manager for the CEO of Sonelgas. Jalal Boucheneb is the head of technical feasibility in the New Resources Central Division at Sonatrach. Hayoun Slimane is the chairman and CEO of CEEG Sonelgas. Dr. Mark Davis, the chief executive officer of Capteria, and Carla Senatore, who is a senior business origination officer at UK Export Finance. Given the nature of this topic, it helps us to frame the Algerian renewable space. Madame Hamrour, si je pouvais commencer par vous pour nous donner un aperçu du rôle de Sonalgas dans ce domaine.
Merci. Honorable assistance, bonjour. Je voudrais remercier l'ensemble des organisateurs ainsi que les participants à cette visioconférence relative aux énergies renouvelables et à la transition énergétique. Pour commencer, je voudrais citer les signaux forts qui montrent que la transition énergétique mondiale est en marche. Nous avons le développement soutenu des ENR enregistrés ces dernières années, l'intérêt manifeste porté sur la maîtrise de l'énergie et l'efficacité énergétique, et la détermination pour endiguer ou contenir la problématique des industries émettrices de carbone. Notre pays, à l'instar des pays dont les ressources naturelles non renouvelables constituent l'essence principale de son développement, est appelé à travers les entreprises nationales, notamment la Sonelgaz, à s'inscrire dans cette dynamique, de trouver une réponse opérante et une approche de mise en œuvre effective de la transition énergétique. Ceci avec l'intime conviction que cet important chantier ne peut se concrétiser qu'à travers une nouvelle synergie entre l'ensemble des opérateurs économiques, que ce soit nationaux ou privés, concernés. C'est dans ce contexte que la Sonelgaz s'est engagée sur la voie de la transition énergétique à travers le lancement de plusieurs projets pour le développement des ENR. À ce titre, permettez-moi, car il est important, de rappeler les projets et les infrastructures énergétiques de sources renouvelables réalisés ou en cours de réalisation par notre société. Nous avons déjà réalisé 23 centrales photovoltaïques d'une puissance totale de 350 MW crête. Nous avons également, dans une phase initiale, réalisé une ferme éolienne de 10 MW et des petites centrales d'énergie renouvelable fonctionnant grâce à différentes technologies qui nous permettront d'évaluer celles qui répondront le mieux aux contraintes climatiques et autres spécificités de la région. Ce potentiel jumelé à notre longue expérience dans la maîtrise d'œuvre et d'ouvrage en matière des infrastructures énergétiques a permis à Sonelgaz de monter en compétence dans la maîtrise parfaite de la réalisation des projets énergétiques, notamment ceux des énergies renouvelables, et ce depuis la phase des études préliminaires, l'élaboration des packages contractuels, que ce soit en mode EPC ou bien en mode IPP, jusqu'à la réalisation des projets. C'est toute cette expérience acquise à travers la réalisation de nos infrastructures qui est à mettre aujourd'hui au service du développement du programme ENR. Aussi, Sonelgaz, dans sa stratégie, cherche à consolider sa position d'acteur majeur de la transition énergétique consacrée comme priorité du plan gouvernemental. En effet, de par sa mission, notre entreprise constitue un levier de développement économique majeur qui, à travers sa politique industrielle, mise sur l'investissement dans de nouveaux créneaux qui génèrent une forte valeur ajoutée via le développement d'une industrie nationale chargée d'assurer la fourniture d'une partie des équipements destinés au secteur de l'énergie électrique en général. Au-delà de sa stratégie de développement industriel, Sonelgaz, soucieuse de contribuer à la préservation de l'environnement par la diminution de l'impact de l'émission des gaz à effet de serre de ces centrales fonctionnant au combustible fossile, à inscrire parmi ses axes stratégiques le développement des ENR. C'est dans ce contexte que le groupe Sonelgaz a aussi lancé un programme d'hybridation des centrales turbines à gaz et centrales diesel existantes au niveau du Grand Sud algérien. Ces investissements que je viens de citer, Sonelgaz les a réalisés sur fonds propres. En effet, le groupe Sonelgaz, comme je l'ai déjà évoqué, veut se positionner en tant qu'acteur majeur dans les ENR et a déjà engagé des réformes structurelles, y compris en termes de digitalisation, pour intégrer dans le système électrique des énergies intermittentes dont l'origine est un ensemble de petits réseaux décentralisés. Mesdames et messieurs, la transition énergétique alliant création de richesses, protection des ressources naturelles et préservation de l'environnement est inévitable. Pour cela, dans son plan de développement, Sonelgaz a mis en place un processus de passage aux énergies renouvelables et à l'efficacité énergétique et considère que cette transition est la meilleure voie pour assurer le développement futur de l'économie nationale. Aujourd'hui, le défi de l'Algérie en matière de transition énergétique consiste à mettre en place une véritable activité économique orientée vers les énergies renouvelables. Nous avons développé une expertise, capitalisé une expérience et aujourd'hui, nous souhaitons examiner toutes les opportunités de partenariat, étudier tous les mécanismes de financement et des montages innovants et surtout partager l'expérience des autres pays pionniers pour concrétiser le programme des ENR en Algérie. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Merci, Madame Ambour. Following on from this insight, I'm pleased to bring Jalal Boucheneb to explain the role of Sonatrach in the transition agenda.
As you know, Sonatrach is a member of OPEC countries, so it's a producer of oil and gas. And to speak about its commitment to the energy transition, we have to go back to the trend of oil and gas companies that need to diversify their project portfolio to transition to renewable energy, to enable a low carbon future and help mitigate the worst climate change impacts. In this context, Sonatrach is reviewing in depth the way it consumes energy, integrates new alternative energy sources, and reduces at source its consumption and waste of all forms. Three axes are to be addressed. The most important one, it's regarding demand. It's about energy efficiency. And the second one is about supply, how we produce electricity. It's about renewables. And the third one is the carbon footprint reduction. It's about gas flaring reduction mainly, and then the promotion of clean fuels usage. To speak about how this is committed and the current plans, the investors' requirements, the partnership opportunities, we have to say that Algeria has committed to renewable energy by creating a dedicated program which was adopted by the government since 2011. This program has been revised twice. In its latest version, it consists in installing a capacity of 50,000 megawatts of renewable energy sources at the horizon 2035 for the national demand. To support this program, the government has published a specific decree 1798 of the 26th February 2017 to frame the deployment of the projects. It describes the procedures that apply to renewable projects in Algeria. The main procedure to achieve scale utility projects is a call for tenders for developers, IPPs. So the independent power producers, it is then expected from the successful IPP to build a partnership with the major energy actors in Algeria in order to install the new plants. This partnership will be subject to Algerian law and regulations in terms of finance.
Thank you, Jalal. With that background on the strategy and support of this important area, I now hand across to Hayoun Slimane, who will give us some insights into the opportunity for IPPs in the Algerian renewable space. Monsieur Slimane, the floor is yours.
In the continuity of the presentation, allow me to present a feasibility study for the support of the realization of the work I will to present for you the Algerian Renewable Energy Program, the prospects and opportunities for independent power producer. My presentation, I will to start this for any information or the general information about Algeria. Algeria is officially the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria, is a country in the Maghreb region of North Africa. Algeria is the largest by area in Africa, covering an area of nearly 2.4 million square kilometers. Algeria has a population of 44 million people. So Sonalgaz is the historical operator in the field of electricity and gas energy supply in Algeria. I want to give you any information for Sonalgaz the few numbers for power generation. For example, for installed capacity is the 22,000 megawatt, the length of electrical transmission network, the length of transportation network, for electric distribution network, for gas distribution network, and the important number of the consumers electricity is the 10 million consumers. So 98% for consumers in the different network in Algeria for Sonal gas. Just any information, another for SIG. SIG is the subsidiary of Sonal Gas, created in 2009. SIG is in charge of the project management, studies, supervision, work control, reception and entry into service of equipment, and of realization of energy infrastructurized project, electricity and gas production, mains, gas, transport networks, and high voltage renewable energy. And this is in the best technical condition of cost, quality, and fulfilling the deadline. In Algeria, the actual situation for the renewable energy is the production of electricity energy renewable is distributed throughout the national territory with an installed capacity of 600 megawatt. This energy is produced by of the following type of plants, and the photovoltaic power plant is polycrystalline silicon with a total capacity of 400 megawatt national territory, and the wind farm 10 megawatt at Cabertin. Cabertin is the other countries in the south of Algeria, and the solar power plant, one SPP1 in the locality for El Ghouat in the southern Algeria for 115 megawatt. And in this power plant, we have hybridization for 25 megawatts. A lot of photovoltaic power plant with a power of 15 megawatts hybridization are currently in realization. And the opportunities for Algeria is the solar energy potential, because in Algeria we have the average annual sunshine estimated at 30,000 hours with an average sunshine of 6.57 kilowatt and square meter per day, with a territory map of 86.7 of Saharan deserts, and by its geographical positioning, Algeria has the most important solar field in the world. But in Algeria, we have different opportunities for the renewable energy development program, because we have an important and very good program. The renewable energy program consists of installing renewable power in the order of 20,000 megawatt by 2013. This program includes pushing utilization for 1,100 under feasibility study, upgrading networks, and introducing smart grids. An important program of photovoltaic solar power plant is planned for 2024. The project consists of the realization of a lot of photovoltaic solar and power plant with a total capacity of 4,000 megawatts distributed in the Algerian territory. Sorry. Another program of photovoltaic solar power plant with a total capacity of 15,000 is planned for 2035. And we have the target for 2013 renewable energy for solar PV, for solar CSP. Our strategy and our proposition for realization for this ambitious program is the power plant will be built by independent producers. Solar power plant projects are planned to be carried out with foreign and domestic investors in association with Sonal Gas and Sonatrach in the form of BU, build and operate, independent electricity produced, APP, or in general non-public producers are private entities which own or operate installations to produce the electricity and then sell it to buyer, public service, and other users. The government of Algeria gave the different facilities for different operating provide, and Algerian has set up an attractive legislative and regulatory system for the development of renewable energies and energy efficiency. The law of electricity and distribution of gas by pipeline, the priority access to renewable energy, the thirdly facilities in the incentive framework for renewable energy, for regulation, for bidding process, auction. The fourthly is the promotion of local manufacturing of renewable energy equipment throughout industrial development and the progressive national integration. And the last facilities is the creation of the Commission for Renewable Energies and Energy Efficiency, with is responsible for developing as a national strategy for the development of the sectors and its implementation. In the conclusion, I wish to say with this brief presentation, we have given a clear idea of Algeria's ambitious program, its solar potential, and the regulatory environment set up for the promotion and the development of renewable energy. The chosen strategy, namely the realization of this ambition program by the independent power producer, APP, take into account that they onshore with their proven experience and their know-how the whole of the construction of the power plant from its development until to its financing and day-to-day operation. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Hayoun, for this summary of the opportunity. I'm pleased to bring in Dr. Mark Davis, CEO of Capterio, to showcase some of the independent companies that can also help with the transition agenda.
Thank you for that extremely kind introduction, and it was great to hear from each of the distinguished speakers too. It feels like there's a real sense of momentum. Algeria is of course strategically placed to lead the energy transition. Algeria is already a leader in energy with very strong capabilities, but exports today are dominated by hydrocarbons and gas flaring is high. Yet the opportunity is to become a diversified economy with clean energy for Algeria and clean exports, and of course with no gas flaring. And by reducing gas flaring, Algeria can decarbonize the energy sector and create real value. We already know that flaring is quite high. According to the World Bank, it's 9 billion cubic meters per year, putting Algeria high up in the league table. But we also know that Sonatrach and partners have several projects underway. But of course, there's an opportunity to reduce flaring faster, bringing many benefits such as capturing $2,000 of revenue per minute, reducing emissions of CO2 and methane, improving health and reducing pollution, increasing Algeria's competitiveness. And by the way, this really is important, as by 2023, the EU might well be imposing carbon border price adjustments on its imports. And of course, delivering on and making progress on COP26. Now, to introduce our company, Capterio, we are a project developer that delivers on-the-ground flare capture solutions. Our approach is to bring together assets, technologies, and financing. We power our thinking with real-time data, and we believe that many flares can be solved with proven technology and create value for governments, national oil companies, and their partners. Our solutions are based around 3 areas. The first is real-time monitoring of every flare worldwide. The second is delivering master planning studies to define practical roadmaps. And the third is delivering on-the-ground solutions. We deliver projects and we bring the financing. I can't wait to show you Flare Intel. Flare Intel brings the data from the world's 10,000 flares to life. The dashboard combines satellite measurement with recent imagery and enables us to monitor every flare. Here, for example, is the world's largest flare in Venezuela, 1 BCM, at least 3 million CO2 equivalent tons. and shockingly, this flare burns through $130 million per year. He is the second largest flare in Iraq, $100 million of revenue loss. The black smoke looks pretty bad too, but this flare, like so many others, is very close to an existing gas pipeline. In fact, globally, our research finds that over half of all global flaring is within 20 kilometres of a gas pipeline, so we really ought to find the solutions. Flare Intel gives an independent view of flaring. It enables us to monitor operations and improvement initiatives and identify investment opportunities. To bring the data to life, here are a couple of examples. The top example is a great success story. This flare site has been flaring for many years at high rates, but congratulations to the operator for stopping the flaring in September 2020. The emission savings from this flare alone are 2.5 million CO2 equivalent tonnes. That's like taking 500,000 cars off the road. The bottom example shows how real-time data can be used to track operational upsets. Flare Intel set up specially to notify us when there's a major uptick, like in this flare since January the 28th. And we make Flare Intel available to our partners and clients. Our second offer, we help companies and countries deliver transition plans. We wrote a white paper back in the summer of 2019 that defines a practical roadmap for how Algeria can reduce gas flaring. And key is to be led by the data, but is also to identify real on the ground projects. After all, every day of delay wastes $3 million here in Algeria. And our third offer at Captura is as a project developer. We deliver on-the-ground solutions. Our technical and commercial teams have looked into every flare and developed many compelling investment opportunities in the region and beyond. We've explored the technology options, the capital requirements, the commercial structures, and are working closely with operators and their NOC partners across the region, including in Algeria. So to recap, the Captura offer is end-to-end. We bring together assets, technology, and financing to make on-the-ground investments happen. And in today's ESG-focused world, reducing gas flaring is an ideal investment opportunity and a priority. It's a quick win that enables us to reduce emissions, create value, deliver progress on COP, and accelerate the energy transition. I'm so excited by the progress that we are going to make together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mark, for showing us how technology can be used to minimise the impact of fossil fuels as we facilitate the transition to renewable energy. In terms of funding support for such initiatives, it falls to the likes of UKEF to provide the foundation blocks for capital investment. Carla will now provide some more detail on the role of UKEF in this regard.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Carla. I work at UK Export Finance in the Business Origination Unit. UK Export Finance is the official export credit agency of the United Kingdom. Our job is to support and increase exports from the UK by providing financing and insurance products where companies are unable to secure those in the private market. Many of the insurance and financing schemes we provide are aimed at UK-based entities, mostly SMEs, that might come to us to access export payment risk insurance or working capital or bond support to fulfill and get paid for their export orders. However, we do also run financing schemes targeted to overseas clients of UK companies, and those schemes are aimed at facilitating access to competitive finance to them. And this is to incentivize them to procure from the UK and to allow them access the funds needed for such procurement. This means that corporate or government entities in Algeria that wish to raise debt for the financing of projects in renewable can potentially access UKEF financial support as long as they are prepared to procure a minimum of 20% of goods or services from the UK to realize those projects. Our support normally takes the form of a guarantee to the bank that provides the loan. UKF guarantee has the power to mitigate the risk in the transaction so that the bank is able to then charge lower interest rates. UKF support also comes with long repayment tenors. Normally, our tenors can go up to 10 years, but for renewable energy in particular, we are able to offer tenors of up to 18 years instead. Renewable is indeed a sector we are particularly keen to support, and for which the Treasury even granted us an extra £2 billion in direct lending capacity. UKF direct lending tool is particularly popular among overseas buyers and sponsors, not only because the interest rates charged on the loan are extremely low, but also because they are fixed for the entire duration of the loan itself, instead of being floating rates. In line with the UK government's commitment to tackle climate change, UKF is now ready to work with countries all around the world to help them unlock their renewable energy potential and support a transition away from fossil fuels and towards low carbon solutions. Last year, we provided £230 million in export credit support for a major offshore wind plant in Taiwan. We also provided over £40 million of financing for the construction of two of the largest solar plants in Spain. And building on the success achieved in these and other markets as well, UKF is now keen to pursue renewable opportunities in Algeria as well. We have considerable risk capacity for the market, with up to £4 billion risk appetite. In addition to that, UK companies are pretty strong and have good capabilities in areas such as green tech or green finance, as well as engineering, design and services. So Algeria's need to pursue a successful low carbon strategy can really open up tremendous opportunities for win-win trade relations with the UK in the renewable space. And we think that UKF product suite can really help develop those relations.
Thank you, Carla. With our panellists having set the scene, it makes sense for us to now drill just a little bit deeper. Perhaps if we could start with you, Carla. With such significant support for Algerian investment, is there a quick win here? Do we need to identify a significant or achievable project, or is it best to spread ourselves across a number of initiatives?
Thank you, Adil. UKF doesn't have any preferences in terms of size or number of initiatives to support. Our support is available on a first-come, first-served basis, which means we are open to receive applications for funding of bankable projects of any size, as long as those projects meet our requirements in terms of UK content, and we can receive applications for up until when the total risk allocation of £4 billion available for Algeria gets fully used up.
Jalal, this is good news for entities such as Sonatrach. Given the potential for support, what does Sonatrach see, therefore, as its role in diversification? Have you looked at alternative fuels and other energy sources?
To speak about Sonatrach's role in diversification, alternative fuels, and power generation, we have to say that Sonatrach has the ambition to diversify its project portfolio in order to address energy transition, mainly renewables. In parallel, Sonatrach has an interest into biofuels. The opportunity to invest into pilot projects is under analysis and evaluation. The production of biofuels provided from non-fossil organic materials using the conversion of existing refineries could help saving the resources in place in a context of sustainable development. In the same trend, the production of electricity from renewables could help to address the diversification goal of the company.
Hayun, we've heard about the initiatives at Sonatrach, but Sonalgas has its part to play too. Given that over 90% of Algeria's energy consumption has traditionally been natural gas, what is the role of Sonagas in the transition discussion? Is it one of reinvention?
Effectively, donc, in Algeria, the 19% of Algeria is our traditional being natural gas for power plant, but the renewable energy represent an important access, but they are not sufficient to meet the growing demand of the national market. It's also necessary to integrate conventional energies and promote the energy efficiency throughout the rationalization of consumption. The construction of conventional power plants has enabled the group to acquire significant capital of experience, which it's currently devoting to the development of its activities in the field of renewable energies. Sonagas, with this energy mix, aims to significantly transform energy production, distribution, and consumption system to reduce their environmental impact and promote a more sustainable energy model.
Coming back to you, Jalal, when we talk about energy transition, we often focus on the end game of low or no carbon emissions. However, in reality, there is a period during which energy companies need to continue delivering carbon-based energy solutions until the rollout of the replacement energy source is achieved. With initiatives such as AFRI6 in focus, for instance, what actions are Sonatrach taking to deal with this challenging dual mandate?
Thank you for the question. So the actions that are Sonatrach taking to deal with the energy transition, we have to speak about the international framework. We have to say that green is the new black. So most of the oil and gas companies' interest is increasing towards renewables and in green economy, as well as Sonatrach has the ambition to embrace energy transition by investing in renewables and implementing energy efficiency measures. In the medium term, Sonatrach have the ambition to invest in a capacity up to 1.3 gigawatts of solar PV, which allows to cover 80% of Sonatrach energy needs for oil and gas production plants by 2030. Although oil and gas continue to constitute the core business of the company, renewables will play a central role in the future business in order to mainly develop electricity generation capacities from renewable energies and saving natural gas volumes issued from these projects. Regarding energy efficiency, some examples could be given about the realized projects. The ambition to implement at large scale the energy management system, we are speaking about ISO 50001, for industrial units has already got this certification. On the other hand, we can give the example of the APC, the Advanced Process Control System, that was implemented at the LPG complex GP1Z, that allows to reduce the gas self-consumption of this industrial site. Also, many energy audits has been achieved through the signature of a memorandum of understanding between Sonatrach and APRI. APRI is the National Agency of Energy Efficiency of Algeria. In addition to that, Sonatrach have joined the operation of zero routine flaring by 2030. This program aims to end by 2030 the systematic gas flaring. To be mentioned that Sonatrach has started gas flaring reduction since 1973.
In light of this, can these be budgeted in parallel, or is there a need to make some difficult decisions on priorities?
So regarding budget and priorities of the projects, annually all Sonatrach projects are ranked according to maturity and economy, then included into a plan for investment for the next 5 years. Since Sonatrach has created a specific direction in charge of implementing renewables, this direction has its dedicated budget, as this new business is of a great importance and it's dealt in parallel to classic oil and gas projects portfolio.
And so, Jalal, where does this leave us in terms of funding for the transition? Where does it come from? Is it internal resources such as cash flow, or is this a leverage play using externalized funding?
So we have to say that Sonatrach is willing to deploy all means to succeed in implementing its projects, including the funding by investing through internal resources. Although all possible extra funding by leveraging project finance could be analyzed according to the potential projects in the future.
So coming back to Carla, if we hear about the need to prioritise and support such initiatives, how quickly can UKEF support be deployed for the right projects?
In terms of estimated timeline for receiving a UKEF-backed loan or UKEF direct funding, this may vary a lot depending on a number of factors, such as the complexity of the structure of the deal, with project finance deals normally requiring longer due diligence process. It may also vary according to the accuracy and speed at which UKEF is provided with the relevant project documentation throughout the different phases of the deal underwriting process. I would say that normally it might take 3 to 6 months roughly for a project, for a transaction to conclude in more straightforward situations. But it's not unusual to see complex and larger deals take over 1 year to reach financial closure due to the enhanced level of credit risk assessment and due diligence needed in those situations.
So staying with you, Carla, are you able to maybe share some examples of projects that are under consideration to help guide our viewers today?
Thank you, Adil. We are proactively developing our support for low carbon sectors, and we have a growing pipeline of clean growth projects under consideration, spanning from solar and wind farms construction to sustainable farming and clean water infrastructure. We can't share details of deals still under assessment, but we can for sure mention a couple of deals we recently closed in the clean growth space. So, for example, last month we announced £200 million support for the Greater Changhua 1 project in Taiwan. Changhua 1 is a 605 megawatt offshore wind plant which will provide energy to over 650,000 households across the region. Various UK firms secured contracts for the supply of equipment and services for this project, and this is why UKEF could get involved and provide a considerable level of support for its realization. In Zambia, we're financing the design, construction, equipping and operation of 108 rural clinics and 3 hospitals across the region, which will all be powered by solar technology. The UK firm which is carrying out the construction is NMS Infrastructure Limited, and in order to support this project we are providing the government with a loan with a direct loan worth £244 million. Again, in Africa, we're also providing the Ghanaian government with a direct loan of £27 million to finance the delivery of a water project by UK firm Aqua Africa. Aqua Africa is providing a solar technology to sterilize water and make it potable for households across the country. So those are just a few examples of transactions recently supported in the green growth space, and we would certainly love to identify and support similar projects in Algeria as well.
Hayun, not everything is simple when we pivot a sector. What do you see as the risks to failure for transition in a market such as Algeria?
Effectively, donc, we are in all transition, we are the risk. But the risks identified by the experience of Algeria in the past years, as Samad upping the resistance for the change of the human being in general, and the lack of monitoring and evaluation of all stages. The transition to a new energy model will be ensuring the implementation for a well-studied renewable energy and the development program with supporting a set of measures to ensure in its success.
Carla, sticking with the challenges, what are the hurdles that you see to successful deployment? Are there limits in the way that UKEF can support funding from the private sector in either bank or bond format?
Thank you, Adil. UKEF mandate is exactly to fill the gaps in the provision of finance and insurance from the private sector. So we're here to help UK companies and their clients overseas to overcome what's probably the main hurdle in the realization of projects, which is access to competitive finance. And we can support all sorts of structures. We can do project finance, we can do PPPs, we can also do Islamic finance and debt capital markets financing. However, it is important to stress that we can only support bankable projects, meaning projects that have a reasonable risk structure and that see banks or other financial institutions willing and comfortable with taking at least some level of risk. We will also expect projects to have sufficient UK content, of course, and we will expect projects to be developed and led by companies that have relevant experience in the sector. So those are really the key areas that can determine the success or the failure of a UKEF application and project implementation.
So, Jalal, as Carla mentioned, we need to see bankability in projects to ensure funding support. Given this is a factor, how is Sonatrach planning to bring renewable energy into existing oil and gas production and infrastructure? What are the latest trends, for example, in carbon reduction projects within Algeria?
Thank you. So, Sonatrach is planning to bring renewables to oil and gas production. To speak about its projects, so I have to say that Sonatrach is willing to generate electricity on site by introducing mainly solar photovoltaic. Why solar photovoltaic? Because of the economy of the projects. So the power plants based on solar photovoltaic technology, there are two conditions that are required. The existence of a gas pipeline in order to make it possible to evacuate the said natural gas, and the existence of the electricity grid in order to ensure that the new solar PV doesn't impact negatively the oil and gas production. We are speaking about service reliability. Also, economy is the main driver of the projects to be implemented. To speak about some projects, examples that has already been implemented, we have to speak that Sonatrach has already a PV plant located in BRN, Wergla, and a solar thermal plant called SPP1 located in Hassermel.
Hayun, staying with bankability and economics of projects, we see strong potential in Algeria as a renewable energy producer. So do we also have potential as an exporter and thereby the ability to create new revenue streams for Algeria?
Effectively, in this moment, in our holding Sonalgas, we analyze the different possibilities for exported for energy because in this moment we have 22 giga. We have any energy for transportation, for exportation, and the renewable energy program consists of installing power from renewable source as a short and medium-term objective for the national market, with the maintenance of the export option as a strategic objective. The future energy mix and the interconnection of the electricity network of the Maghreb countries in the first place for the Maghreb Electricity Committee, COMEDEC, and another committees, and to other countries and continents will allow the export and exchange of electric energy between these countries.
Jalal, this sounds compelling as an opportunity. Are you able to give us some insight into the competitive advantage of Algeria when compared to its neighbours who have more advanced renewable energy investments? And how is Sonatrach planning to address this?
Thank you. Algeria is considered to have high solar irradiance, and adding to that, it is the 10th country in the world in terms of surface area. It intends to exploit these advantages in order to develop utility-scale power plants. The creation of the new ministry, dedicated to both energy efficiency and renewables, could lead to paving the way to rationalize energy consumption in the first case, then invest heavily in renewable projects. What's important to say about energy efficiency targets, that the objective of Algeria in the context of the ENDC, intended nationally determined contribution, is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 7% to 22% by 2030, compared to a business as usual scenario. So it's conditioned on external support in terms of finance, technology development and transfer capacity building. The 7% greenhouse gas emissions, the reduction will be achieved by national means. Sonatrach, as the national oil and gas company and the solid financial stakeholder, is completely aligned with the government program and could help implementing the national strategy by taking advantage of its existing infrastructures to valorize gas pipelines and ships, and investing in new opportunities. We can speak about biofuels and green hydrogen.
Well, this brings us to the end of our session on what is a key investment opportunity for Algeria, and also vitally important to the global climate change agenda. I would like to thank my panellists for their participation and their fascinating insights. Thank you for joining us, and it now gives me great pleasure to hand back to Katie McCoshen of DMA, who is your host for the next panel.
Thank you, Adil, and thank you too for a brilliant opening session to this event. And it now brings us on to our second session, which is specifically on renewable energy solutions and investable opportunities. So we're really going to take the time to delve down and to look at what is being done in Algeria and the opportunities for UK businesses. It's my pleasure to hand over to our first speaker, Adel Baba Isa of Renewable Energy Partners, to give the private sector's insight into Algeria, which I hope you find encouraging. Adel.
My Lord, Minister, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Firstly, I'd like to thank DMA, DIT and the Algerian authorities for both organising this event and for inviting me to speak to you today. As you may be aware, Algeria has for a decade had one of the largest and most ambitious renewable energy programs in Africa. In its revised form, it still stands at 16,000 megawatts by 2035. As Africa's largest country, Algeria has abundant available land and possesses one of the best solar resources on the planet. Therefore, there should really be no obstacles to what Algeria can achieve in this field. However, the uptake of projects has so far been rather slow, with only about 400 megawatts of renewable power connected to the grid. Nonetheless, we are encouraged by the creation of a dedicated Ministry for Energy Transition and Renewable Energy, and look forward to working with Minister Chitour and his team. We are confident that they will find in the UK a strong and willing partner that is ready to engage in the transformation of Algeria's power generation sector. A partner with considerable experience and expertise that can be shared with Algeria. with an industry present across the entire value chain of renewable energy, which makes the UK one of the world's largest renewable energy producers. Indeed, our Algerian viewers may be surprised to know that there is currently more installed solar PV capacity in the UK than there is in Spain or France, countries considerably sunnier than the UK. As a developer focusing on and off-grid solar PV, we engineer, design, build and operate projects exclusively in the Middle East and Africa. We have been present in Algeria since 2013. To date, we have been able to develop the first private solar PV farm under the feed-in tariff regime. More recently, we have been fitting solar PV at a water desalination plant, a project where in the long run 10% of the plant's electrical consumption will be provided by solar energy. We are also working on other initiatives with large-scale consumers of energy in order to diversify their energy mix or reduce their use of fossil fuels. We look forward to participating in the 1 gigawatt solar PV tender that has been announced by the Ministry of Energy Transition and Renewable Energy, as well as working with Sonatrach and its partners on its plans to hybridize its oil and gas installations across Algeria. We truly believe in Algeria's potential, and as such, we are excited about continuing to contribute to Algeria's energy transition goals. Thank you all for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. Goodbye.
Thank you, Adele. I really was surprised to know that the UK has more installed solar PV than France or Spain, especially considers the UK's relative lack of sunshine compared to these countries. And given that Algeria experienced so much more sunshine, it really shows the scale of the opportunity there. And thank you for having so clearly explained that the UK really is a confident and willing partner. And of course, it was great to hear about the initiatives that you've been running and will continue to run as well. Now, a key part of the energy transition is energy efficiency, because energy efficiency affects the amount of greenhouse gases that are emitted, which is of course a really important part of climate change adaptation. We've heard a little bit today about how energy efficiency is part of the Algerian government's renewable energy plan, but to hear a little bit more about this and the role of UK investors in energy efficiency, it's my pleasure to hand over to Kamel Dali, who's the General Director of APRU, which is the Algerian Energy Efficiency Agency. Over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am very happy to be with you today to give you some information about energy transition and energy efficiency in Algeria. First, I introduce myself. My name is Kamel Dali. I'm the General Manager of the Algerian Energy Efficiency Agency. Energy transition and efficiency objective. The energy transition to a zero carbon energy system will require both a shift to renewable energy and major increase in energy efficiency. These are usually treated separately but are not independent. Energy efficiency is the constant of any transition to a cleaner, more secure and more sustainable energy future. The two main sources of energy efficiency improvement are: 1. Greater technical efficiency from the implementation of energy efficiency technologies. 2. Structural economic changes that result in the production and consumption of goods with lower energy intensity. National Energy Efficiency Program. The national energy efficiency program focuses on all three sectors of activity that have a significant impact on energy consumption: building, transport, and industry. It aims at reducing some consumption by 10% through energy substitution and introduction of efficient equipment and technologies. For the building sector, the program focuses on the introduction of thermal insulation of housing, new housing, and existing housing, the promotion and the generalization of efficient lighting, the large diffusion of solar water heaters, and the improvement of the energy performance of electric equipment. For the transport sector, the program aims to promote the most available and least polluting fuels: LPG fuel, natural gas fuel, dual fuel, and electric locomotion. For the industry sector, the program aims to carry out an energy audit program and an investment program to promote cogeneration, the improvement of thermal and electric processes. A role of the private sector and international audience in improving energy efficiency. 1. Promote the partnership. 2. Technology transfer. Develop technology transfer, concrete project, and capacity building. Challenges of energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is the first fuel and can make the energy transition affordable, faster, and more beneficial across all sectors of our economies. An energy transition strategy must be led by energy efficiency, and the Algerian government is ready to continue to support the stakeholders in reaping many benefits of energy efficiency through detailed analysis, sharing of policy, best practices, and training activities. How unique UK investors can help us overcome the biggest energy efficiency challenges. 1. Reducing energy consumption in the energy intensive sector of transport and building. The emergence of alternative energy models that diversify energy sources, developing renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and hydro, developing electric mobility, developing the thermal insulation market by offering a high-performance, low-cost insulation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that really insightful presentation on what the agency and what the Algerian government is doing more widely to support energy efficiency and the wealth of opportunities within buildings, transport and industry, whether it's solar water heaters or whether it's energy efficient lighting and of course energy efficiency on a much bigger scale too. It was also great to hear the 3 takeaways there for partnerships, technological transfer and capacity buildings that the UK can really get involved with in Algeria. The government is very willing and ready to support stakeholders. I think we can really see that. It's now my pleasure to hand over to Sabi Amara, who's the Africa Director for Clark Energy, which is a big power provider in the renewable energy space, to hear more about the private sector's perspective.
Clark Energy is a British international company specializing in engineering, installation and maintenance of distributed power generation solutions. We are present today in 27 countries and have installed more than 7 gigawatts of engines which use different types of gas: natural gas, biogas, and also flare gas. Clark Energy has been very active in Algeria since 2011. We have been able to secure a gas engine fleet of more than 70 megawatts, allowing high efficiency power production and also engine heat recovery. Early last year, we commissioned our first installation based on landfill gas near Algiers. This clearly reflects the new interest in this type of renewable energy and also marks the start of a new energy chapter in the country. Algeria today has all the ingredients to manage successfully its energy transition with skilled manpower, natural resources, land and climate. This transition includes energy efficiency, resilience, and optimized energy mix with the right renewables. Private companies have already started looking for energy efficiency solutions, but the large-scale deployment of these solutions is still limited. It is today extremely important to put in place the right overall framework, incentives, and financing schemes to further promote these initiatives, such as the cogeneration, and encourage private companies to invest with the right return and payback period. We talk about renewables. Most of the time, we only mention solar and wind. It is worth mentioning here that biogas and hydroelectricity are the only renewables with reliable, continuous, and steady power output. Regarding biogas, several sources are available today in Algeria. We can mention the landfills, the wastewater treatment plants, and the organic waste. Recent studies show the biogas production potential of these biogas sources. We're talking about 3 billion cubic meters per year from landfills and more than 20 billion cubic meters per year from wastewater treatment plants. As a reference, we need around 130 cubic meters per hour to produce 250 kilowatts from the smallest engine of Clark Energy. So the main benefits of this biogas are the following. So it's the production of a continuous renewable energy. It's also a production of a low carbon fertilizer from the waste which is treated. And the third one is the avoidance of landfill gas escape and reduction in carbon emissions, knowing that methane on a weight basis has 21 times the global warming potential of carbon dioxide. On the wastewater side, as the cost of energy rises and the emphasis on renewable energy increases, local authorities and municipalities are seeking solutions that save money and meet renewable requirements. Power generation or cogeneration based on this biogas provides a renewable energy solution which results in long-term savings. It offsets as much as 2/3 of a plant's power demand and eliminates the need to purchase fossil fuels for plant heating processes. Alternatively, biogas upgrading plants can convert this biogas to biomethane for injection into the natural gas grid or for vehicle fuel. The valorization of this biogas brings many benefits. First of all, it's a generation of a renewable and continuous energy from a waste material. Second is the economical on-site power production with reduced transmission losses. It's also the reduction in carbon emissions, especially compared to aerobic sewage treatment. Finally, is the production of a low-carbon fertilizer and soil improver, which can be used in the agricultural fields. The third point is relating to the flare gas, which is also known as associated petroleum gas, APG, or field gas. The volume of Algerian flare gas exceeds today 3 billion cubic meters per year. This gas can be converted to power at high efficiency using Clark Energy's gas engines. This power can be used for the provision of electricity and heating on site, whilst eliminating the cost of diesel deliveries to remote areas. The use of flare gas as fuel is an excellent way of reducing carbon dioxide emissions that might result from diesel consumption and transportation, reducing operating costs and mitigating road safety risks. The advantages from the flare gas valorization are as follows. So the first point is the disposal of a problem gas while producing power. This problem gas has a fee because Algeria is paying a fee for each 1,000 cubic meters of flare gas. And this fee amounts to 150 euros, which is a big amount if we consider all the volume which is being flared today. The second point is the avoidance of liberation of methane into the atmosphere, knowing that methane, as said previously, has 21 times the global warming potential of CO2. And the last point is the independence in terms of power supply for the oil field. These different solutions, including cogeneration, biogas and flare gas valorization, with significant potentials in Algeria, need to be considered and included in the energy transition strategy of the country, together with solar and wind projects. Microgrids, which include more than one source of energy, solar and gas and storage, for example, could also be added to the list. As a longer-term vision, Algeria could become Europe's and the Maghreb's backbone for the production and storage of green hydrogen. Clark Energy has already in its product portfolio a 1 megawatt gas engine with 100% hydrogen input. With a straight-to-the-point and balanced energy strategy, we can confirm that the future belongs to Algeria. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sabi, and I'm sure the audience will agree that the future does belong to Algeria, and how great to hear about all the other opportunities in renewables aside from solar and wind, which of course are the ones that we have talked about the most, but also the importance of biogas and hydrogen in really supporting the energy transition agenda. Algeria really does have all the ingredients it needs to successfully manage its energy transition. We're coming to the end of this session, and we'd like to go to our last speaker, who is Sami Agli, the president of CAPSI, which is an organisation that brings together companies that represent all areas of activity in Algeria in industry and trade, to talk a little bit more about technology and entrepreneurship and the importance of skills in the renewable energy transition.
Thank you, Cathy. Lord Risby, Son Excellence Monsieur l'Ambassadeur du Royaume-Uni en Algérie, Son Excellence Monsieur l'Ambassadeur d'Algérie au Royaume-Uni, Monsieur le représentant du gouvernement britannique, Monsieur le représentant du ministère de la Transition énergétique et des énergies renouvelables, Mesdames et Messieurs, permettez-moi tout d'abord de remercier au nom de tous les membres de la Confédération algérienne du patronat citoyen les organisateurs de ce webinaire dédié à la transition énergétique. Le secteur de l'énergie a toujours été le socle de l'économie nationale et l'Algérie restera, certes pendant encore plusieurs décennies, un acteur majeur sur le marché des hydrocarbures, mais les différents chocs pétroliers ont démontré que ce modèle économique n'est pas viable à long terme, et que nous devons dès maintenant réfléchir à l'après-pétrole. De nombreux changements ont bouleversé le marché des hydrocarbures et nous devons en tenir compte. La baisse substantielle et vraisemblablement structurelle du prix du baril du pétrole annonce la fin de l'ère du pétrole cher. Nous ne pouvons ignorer non plus la baisse drastique des exportations des hydrocarbures et des recettes fiscales pétrolières et l'augmentation de la consommation interne à laquelle il faudra faire face progressivement et qu'il faudra rationaliser. D'autres nouvelles donnes nous interpellent dans l'émergence d'un marché des hydrocarbures non conventionnels grâce aux avancées technologiques qui ont facilité l'exploration et l'exploitation. Mesdames et messieurs, au plan interne, l'urgence pour notre pays de se retourner vers une transition plus en faveur des énergies renouvelables tient notamment d'une consommation interne de gaz qui devient insoutenable, de la chute des prix du pétrole et du gaz sur le marché mondial et de l'apport des ENR en matière de développement économique et création d'emplois et de nouveaux métiers. Pour nous, à la CAPSE, la recherche d'alternatives aux énergies fossiles doit être considérée comme une priorité nationale. Car c'est de la sécurité énergétique de notre pays dont il s'agit. Cette recherche d'alternatives passe nécessairement par une transition énergétique qui doit s'appuyer non pas sur une énergie monosource, mais sur un mix énergétique où les énergies renouvelables trouveront leur place. Les enjeux sont considérables. Une filière industrielle à promouvoir, des milliers d'entreprises à créer ou à reconvertir, des filières de formation à développer et à la clé, des centaines de milliers d'emplois verront le jour. À ce titre, la CAPSE soutiendra toutes les politiques publiques qui encouragera les projets relatifs aux énergies renouvelables impliquant des technologies nouvelles et innovantes. Les entreprises algériennes ont un rôle central à jouer pour faire face aux défis de cette transition énergétique. Ces défis sont aussi autant d'opportunités pour renforcer le leadership international des services et des entreprises algériennes, vers une Afrique subsaharienne qui ambitionne de développer 30 gigawatts de solaire à l'horizon 2025. Il s'agit là d'impulser une véritable dynamique du tissu économique local et faire émerger à terme des champions qui partiront à la conquête de l'Afrique où des opportunités sont réelles et abordables pour nos entreprises. Nous souhaitons, avec vous, voir émerger des dizaines de chefs d'entreprise et d'entreprises ou des champions économiques de grande envergure dans tous les segments du secteur des énergies renouvelables. Le solaire, le photovoltaïque et le solaire thermique, l'éolien, la biomasse, la géothermie sont réellement une priorité. L'enjeu de l'amélioration de l'attractivité aussi de notre marché doit être la prospérité et la compétitivité des entreprises, dont l'engouement pour les énergies renouvelables et les différentes activités du secteur de l'énergie est considérablement. L'industrie des énergies renouvelables algérienne, qui repose sur des matières premières inépuisables, doit démarrer sur de bonnes bases. S'il y a bien un secteur vers lequel il faudra s'orienter et mobiliser toutes les énergies, la politique d'entrepreneuriat et d'investissement, c'est bien celui-là. C'est un secteur d'avenir dont dépend grandement la réussite de la transformation de notre économie. Les entreprises algériennes ou mixtes doivent en être les leaders et l'investissement direct étranger viendra en appoint de ces entités locales. Mesdames et messieurs, la diversification économique doit se traduire en action, car la crise est bien là, et pour qu'elle ne devienne pas structurelle, il est impératif d'agir dans l'immédiat. De grands bouleversements géopolitiques et géostratégiques sont en train de s'opérer dans le monde, et notre pays doit se positionner savamment pour ne pas rester en marge. Le marché de l'énergie connaît des mutations significatives, auxquelles nous devons nous adapter par anticipation. Il convient donc de fixer des objectifs précis, réalistes et faisables pour composer et maîtriser notre mix énergétique. Construisons notre stratégie en tenant compte des paramètres liés à l'environnement, au territoire, aux ressources humaines, à la disponibilité des richesses naturelles, à la progression fulgurante de la demande interne et de l'évolution du marché externe. Comme vous le savez, mesdames et messieurs, la transition énergétique est une question complexe, transverse, qui concerne tous les secteurs d'activité économique. Gagner la bataille de l'énergie, c'est bâtir un nouveau modèle économique basé sur le travail et l'innovation et non pas sur la rente pétrolière. Une économie est jugée puissante, non pas par rapport à ses performances en temps de prospérité, mais à ses capacités de faire face aux crises conjoncturelles. Il est temps de nous engager avec énergie dans la transformation de notre économie. Il s'agit de changer le modèle de croissance algérien, historiquement tiré par des hydrocarbures, par un nouveau modèle plus diversifié et plus enclin à intégrer des ressources d'énergie propres et alternatives, qui seront à l'initiative de la création d'industries nouvelles. Il ne peut y avoir de transition économique sans une transition énergétique. Je vous remercie pour votre aimable attention.
Merci beaucoup pour votre présentation. Thank you very much. And we've actually got some questions that have been coming through during the course of the day, and of course many that have been submitted ahead of this afternoon. We'd like to ask you a couple now, if that's okay, and I'll kick off with the first one, which is, what would CAPSI's message be to international investors wishing to partner with Algerian businesses in renewable energy, and what are the key opportunities for them?
Thank you, Cathy. Algeria has one of the highest solar fields in the world, over a land area that allows it to take full advantage of solar energy. In addition, the duration of sunshine over almost the entire national territory exceeds 2,000 hours annually and can even reach 3,900 hours, especially in the highlands and the Sahara. Also, an IFC report from September 2020 shows that Algeria has the first wind potential in Africa, with an average capacity of 7.7 gigawatt. To meet this high potential and the concern for the national energy mix, Algeria launched in 2020 a program of 15,000 megawatt of renewables by 2035. The first 1,000 megawatt will be launched this year. The local industrial fabric will develop with the production of equipment necessary for the development of renewable projects. In particular, solar energy, such as PV panels, cables, and support of panels. We'll be interested in completing this ecosystem with the integration of inverters and transformers, without forgetting also the transfer of a know-how locally with the training component. In this context, the CAPC invites all the international companies, in particular British companies, to participate in this development of renewable energy program by joining forces with the private Algerian companies.
Thank you very much, Sami. And our next one actually leads on from the first question, and it's from the perspective of the private sector in Algeria, what are the benefits of Algeria's investment climate for those looking to invest in renewable energy, and what improvements could be made to make the climate more favourable?
Renewable is an important market. There are transactions between private and state and other between private. For the first case, on the one hand, the specification for renewable projects will only be released in June according to announcement of the Ministry of Energy Transition and Renewable. I think it will be an IPP with the PPA contracts, therefore guaranteed for the period of the contract. On the other hand, there are small capacity rooftop projects that are handled between the private sector and state institutions in the form of an EPC contracts. For the second case, private-to-private contracts exist, but only in an EPC. There are several foreign companies that are active in this field. They work alone or with the local partners. Business in the area is fluid. For those who want to come to work, tenders are transparent and impartial. So all legally Algerian structures of foreign origin, managed or not, are treated at the same level in the calls of tenders. Local content is a fundamental parameter in participating in calls for tenders. Aid existing in this area in the integration rates are high enough. The aid is on the fiscal or financial nature. ANDI is the specialized agency for investors, and which support them in the execution of aid guaranteed by the state. Aid is different between the north, the highland, and the south of the country.
Thank you. And this next question I know you touched on in your presentation earlier, but it would just be great to know, what does CAPC see as its role in furthering the green economy and developing the renewable energy space? Does technology and digital innovation have a role to play in this?
Our role in the energy transition is clear, and we wish to bring its reflection and its belief in the energy mix, including a large part of renewable, while placing the Algerian company at the heart of the strategy. The energy transition seen by our organization is based on 5 pillars, which are the energy mix, including massively renewables, energy efficiency, smart energy, power to X, and internationalization. Yes, technology and digital innovation is a centerpiece in our thinking. The world is moving towards smart energy, which naturally embeds technology and digital innovation.
Thank you again. And with this technology and digital innovation, there's a really important role for skills, and particularly skills for green jobs. So building on that, in developing and investing in renewable energy, what are the opportunities for job creation and skill development?
It has been shown that the deployment of renewable energies at the scale of country leads to massive job creation. For example, in 2017, 8.8 million jobs were created worldwide for around 900 gigawatt of renewable energy installed, or an average of 10 jobs created per megawatt installed. We are confident that the development of this renewable in Algeria would bring job creation across the entire value chain.
Thank you so much again, and that really does bring us to the end of this second session, which has been about the investable opportunities in the renewable energy landscape, and we hope you've enjoyed the panel. We've just got time to go to our last speaker now. Is the British Ambassador to Algeria, Her Excellency Sharon Wardle, who's going to deliver the closing remarks for this afternoon.
I'm delighted to have been invited to make some closing remarks at today's UK Algeria Energy Transition and Countdown to COP26 webinar. I'd like to start by thanking Your Excellency Ambassador Benguera, Janet Rogan, the UK's COP26 Regional Ambassador, Shaban Marwan from the Ministry of Energy Transition and Renewable Energy, and all of the speakers. Between you, you have set out very clearly our respective countries' strategies and goals. I'm amazed at how much experience we have been able to share within this sector. I'm very excited about this important agenda and the opportunity for forging newer and stronger partnerships. Of course, Algeria has always played a globally significant role in the energy markets through its natural resources. However, its potential impact on the renewable energy sector, given its abundance of renewable resources, its vast landmass and proximity to Europe, have the potential to make it a key global actor going forward. We would like to see Algeria and the UK businesses forming partnerships in this sector, not only because of the geography and location, but because of the ambitious green agendas that our countries both share. It's been fascinating to hear from public and private sector companies today, particularly Sonatrach and Sonagaz, and for sharing their future plans so that we can look at collaboration and sharing solutions on how to take forward transition through the range of renewable energies and technologies. You've heard from today's speakers about how, as we recover from the global pandemic, we have the opportunity to build back better, greener and cleaner. COP26 is the chance to shape the future, not just in terms of emission targets, but in developing roadmaps about how we can get there collectively. And being green is now a sensible business decision too. And we need more dialogue on how to make being sustainable the only real sensible option. Events like today are an important part of this journey, and we hope to have many more to come. You will have heard about the UK government's UK Export Finance Fund and how £2 billion has been set aside for supporting financing green energy projects, including in Algeria, and the transition from fossil fuels. This is part of the UK government's wider green agenda to support a green industrial revolution, show leadership, build and develop skills, jobs and innovative solutions. I very much hope that we can take this conversation further with our Algerian colleagues and introduce more UK investors and the sharing of expertise and technology. As for next steps, I'm delighted that the UK and Algeria have made a commitment to work together on our climate change and renewable energy ambitions. This was signed by our respective governments last March during the bilateral strategic dialogue. As Algeria continues to diversify its economy and its entrepreneurs explore new markets in Africa and beyond, UK companies stand ready to offer complementary technology, experience and expertise. This is a partnership of mutual gain, a win-win. I'm delighted that this has been such a useful and successful webinar. I hope that it will contribute to the creation of new linkages and opportunities for cooperation between companies in this exciting sector. I very much see this event as just the start of our partnership going forward as we approach COP26, and that we share the journey for energy transition and implementation of renewable energy policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, for a fantastic summary of today's event, which on the surface has been about the energy transition and COP26, but it's actually been so much more than that. It's about why we have to have an energy transition and the fact that we are already in one, and this is the way things are moving, and the UK and Algeria can be both early movers and leaders in this. We've also got the political appetite and willingness and the means to support this crucial renewable energy transition, as well as the enthusiasm and ambition to see it through. We've heard from a range of stakeholders this afternoon. We've heard about the support available, the financing and the innovation to make this energy transition possible on a really large scale, and I can't think of anywhere more exciting for this to happen than Algeria, not just in the run-up to COP26 in November, but beyond COP26, and that's really what this sustainability agenda is about. Just before we go, I'd like to say a big thank you to our supporters and partners for this event, so Oxford Business Group, Clark Energy, Capterio, DIT, both embassies, our speakers, and of course the audience. Thank you so much for having submitted your questions and being engaged during this event, and please do continue to come forward if you'd like to find more out about what we do in terms of events, in terms of support, and also in this new and exciting green space. We'd really like to encourage you to be part of this race to net zero and the wider greening of the economy, an economy which is going to be about growth but also health and well-being that really puts the environment and people at the centre. Thank you.